All right, for the 2018 season of August Accountability, she is the co-owner of When I Becomes We.
Exactly.
Yes, I had to get it straight. I was like, when two become one, and I said, all I know is it is a marriage ministry, and it is awesome. I knew that, but I had to get the words right. When I Becomes We,
Yes.
and that's really important.
Yes, it is.
Yes, and so she is going to share with us today for the relationship quadrant.
Yes.
Yeah, it's going to take a different perspective. Last year, we kind of dealt with friendships. So this year, we're going to do with relationships. And it'll kind of field over into other areas as well.
Exactly.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, because she doesn't just do When I Becomes We. She has this fabulous body because she is also...
I am a certified fitness trainer.
Yes, she
I am.
is. Yeah, so tell us just all the things that you do. Tell us about it.
I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a grandmother, I am a fitness trainer, a health coach, and yeah, so I will say that being married for 20 plus years actually kind of laid the foundation or the platform, if you will, for When I Becomes We, because other couples were looking at us and they were like, oh, y'all look so happy, y'all look so this, and I'm thinking, you know, how do you know? Because we don't share that much, but people are watching you.
Yes.
And so I laid my platform on the place where everybody was, on social media. Because I found that on social media, you can be anybody you want to be, right?
Yes,
and everybody's
can.
marriage looks glamorous. But then when you get behind the scenes and they start asking those questions, or how do y'all do this? And I found out that people are really hurting. People are hurting and they don't have an avenue or a channel, because again, on social media or when to everybody else, you want to look like everything is all together and everything's perfect. So that's how When I Becomes We started.
Okay. And so does your husband join you with that? You guys do things together?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Actually, he likes to say it stems from a personal relationship, because it is what it's all about. It's really personal things that have happened in our lives, things that we've encountered. And so just sharing that with others. And so we are pretty vulnerable when it comes to what we post actually on that social media, because those are things that we're experiencing ourselves.
Gotcha.
Yes.
And you've had a good response from it?
Oh yeah. And you know what happens, Stacey, is so when it comes to likes and comments and things like that, people don't comment because again, you're hiding behind that platform. But when I see you out in public, some people, they're not even on social media. Oh, so-and-so told me about what you posted on. I have a question for you, but you don't like or comment, but yet you have, so people are watching, and you know, that's what matters.
You know what I call that? The peekaboo community.
Oh, that's stalkers.
Yeah,
I call them.
I don't call it stalkers. I don't call them stalkers, but I call them the peekaboo community. They peek in and they know everything that you're doing.
Exactly.
I saw somebody last week. I was over at Paul Quinn, and a lady that I worked with over 25 years ago, like she recognized me, and I was like, I'm just not doing it. She knew Trent's name. She knew when we got married. I mean, she knew everything. And she's like, I've been following you for years. And I was like, you've never liked the comment. I had no idea. It just shocked me. And in the back of my mind, I said, she's a part of the peekaboo crew.
Right.
She's just peeking.
People are watching. They're watching. They've seen our vacations, and they same thing. They know my daughter's name and how's this doing, how's the grandbaby. And my husband and I, we laugh about it because we walk away and like, who was that?
Right.
We don't have a clue. But again, it's like, this is what God placed in my heart to do. And while I'm looking at it like, well, no one's liking, they're like, you haven't posted in a while. Well, I didn't even know you liked the page.
Right.
You know? So that's what it's about.
And we know that you guys are watching because there's a thing called the insight page.
Yeah.
And it tells you that, people are actually looking at what you're putting out there. They're engaging. Exactly. So that's awesome that you guys are doing that together. And we have that in common because, we wrote the book as a family. And you're talking about put your life out there.
Yes.
Yeah. You get emails from people that you haven't ever seen or on social media or anything. But how do you balance that? The privacy and the public life of having a marriage ministry.
And like I said, we are pretty private for the most part. That other than our circle, you know, and we keep our circle pretty small for the most part. I like to believe that when you're part of our circle, that means we have common goals. And if we don't have those common goals, then that's where that negative energy you talked about when it gets a little bit overwhelming, and that's where we have to draw back and pull ourselves away from that. But my primary goal and focus is my relationship.
Your marriage.
It is, and that's what that is. So in order to balance that, it has to be priority. And then I feel like everything else will kind of fall into place.
Do you think people are making their marriages priorities these days?
Oh, absolutely not.
Do you think people are making their friendships priority?
I think they will put their friendship over their marriage in most cases, but I don't even think that they're making that a priority.
I don't either.
No.
It is so, it's not discouraging. I think it's more sad.
It is sad.
To me,
Yeah.
how people will disregard their friendships.
You know what I view? I think people put in priority is how they look, how they look in the public eye. And especially for women, and people in general, but women, we're so judgmental. We're judgmental about how we think things should happen. Well, you know, just because I went to college and just because I'm degree, well, I think I'm all that. Well, no, I think I went to college, I went to got a degree, and Sally Mae sends me an invoice that reminds me every month about that. Or
Right.
then on the flip side, if you don't go to college and you choose to be a stay-home mom, or well, you know, she needs to be doing more. Her man is controlling her. You know, she's not doing anything with her life.
Judgmental.
We're so judgmental about, you know, how we look and how we think other people should look until we're not really focusing on what's helping us to grow, what is developing a healthy relationship in your marriage or in your friends, because we're so concerned about trying to tell everybody else what they should and should not be doing.
And so how do we delicately address that with people?
Well, you know, really, I think it starts with yourself.
Okay.
Yeah. What are you doing?
Okay.
And then once you become part of it, I feel like a well-balanced life, if you will, and I know we use that term loosely, but a well-balanced life a wheel has many spokes, right?
Yes.
And in those spokes, they all kind of need to be lined up, but the center of that spoke is the core, and that's you.
Okay.
You can determine which direction your life is going to go in, right? And sometimes when those spokes are out of balance, your wheel is kind of off balance, right? But you have to recognize that in the center of it. And until we do some self-reflections and work on ourselves, then we're always going to kind of be like wobbling all over the place. And what happens is you're turned at any direction at any time because you're easily persuaded by other things, you know?
Right. You're not grounded.
Exactly. You don't have that center core is not balanced and all your spokes is not lined up. So your wheel is just going to kind of go all over the place.
We were talking this morning during makeup, and I talk a lot, right? And so Amia tells me that something I said to her, we went grocery shopping together, and something that I said to her resonated with her in terms of which direction you're going to go. So we're in the grocery store and we're doing our thing. And this guy comes up and, I mean, just diarrhea at the mouth. He's just talking. Well, Amia entertained him. You know, she's standing there, so I'm being polite. I'm okay, you know. So when he walked off, I was like, do you do that all the time? And she said, no. She said, I just didn't want to walk off. I was like, you're not required to stay there and let him do that. You have to put boundaries in place. And I think that's with relationships, period. And so she said that this morning. She said, do you know no one had ever told me that? That I could just look at him and say, hey, I have to get going, or hey, we're working on something here. You know, thank you for the information. You know, she said nobody had ever shared with me that I have the right to put that boundary in place. And I think a lot of women feel like that. Yeah. And then what happens, they get overwhelmed by all of the energy that they're getting from other people because they haven't put up those boundaries. Right. I don't have to sit at home and wait for you to call. I don't have to come running every time you call. Right. I have a decision that I can make. So have you found that with people?
I can use my favorite word, no.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to.
And I don't have to give you an excuse.
Exactly. And that's what a lot of times we feel like no requires. No is it's not a comma behind no. Right. No, there's a period behind no. Right. So when I say no, I mean no. And I don't owe you any explanation of why I can't go or why I'm not going to. As you mentioned, we use the Dave Ramsey program. So we're on that budget too. So sometimes our budget does not allow us to hang out with different couples and do different things. No, we're not going.
Right. And be okay with that.
And be okay with it. But again, as I stated, it has to start with yourself. You have to be okay with saying no, and you have to be okay with hearing no.
Yeah. I think that's powerful. Yeah. 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 I think too, when you look at relationships, one of the things that people have a hard time doing, I think women have a hard time doing, is balancing your friendships. Like I've had some friends that I have had longer than I've been married, right? And so if that friend is asking me to do something, do I have a friend that respects my marriage? Exactly. Or do I have a friend that would challenge my marriage. Do you
Right.
see what I'm saying?
Oh,
How do you
absolutely.
talk with women?
Absolutely. And one of the things that I believe that you have to realize is some friends are placed in your life for a season.
Right,
Right.
right.
And so, I have, my best friend, we've been there for years, but she is my secret keeper. But when it comes to certain things in my life, sometimes I have to move around where another friend becomes that person. So when you're talking to your 15-year-old self, we have all these goals and we have these dreams that we were going to do when we turn 15. Well, now I'm 52.
Right.
So now I should not be talking about those same goals and dreams
Right.
that I was going to do at
At
15.
15.
And if you find that sometimes your friend or that acquaintance, whatever, is still there, then okay, you were great for that season, and now it's time for me to move around and find those friends or that relationships that's actually going to cultivate what I'm trying to do right now. My
Right.
ABCs to get there.
Right.
So if they're
Right.
not trying to get there to where I am right
Right.
now, then you're still good. We're cool. We can kick it. We can happy hour. But when it comes to balancing a relationship to help me to where I'm trying to go now, then I'm sorry, friend. That's when you got to say no to.
Yeah. You know what I found interesting one time, and I won't say who it is, but she told us one year, because we were trying to go out. We were like, hey, you want to go? We don't even go out a lot, so it's kind of odd that we were saying it. We were like, we want to go out to eat. But she's like, I'm trying to get married. I'm trying to get married this year. And I was like, what? And then I was like, that's a good point. And she was married. By the end of, it was like, it wasn't like she was being sneaky or anything.
was her
It was like,
goal.
I'm going to invest my energies into this. And I
there is
totally
nothing
respected
wrong with
that. And if
that,
she wants to
yes.
raise her hand right now, she can certainly do so. But I was just like,
And that is her goal.
Yes.
And if you guys did not embrace and help her cultivate
exactly
her goal,
that she would have had to say,
then
okay.
two fingers sideways.
Finger sideways. Okay. So I talk about forgiveness a lot, right? And how destructive unforgiveness is in relationships. Can you share a little bit about that?
Forgiveness really is a process. It is. I would love to be able to say, I forgive you, and then we just keep it moving and everything is hunky-dory, but it doesn't happen that way. It starts with a person realizing if you're the victim or whether you cause or hurt or whatever it is, you have to put yourself in that person's situation. Sometimes we forget, when we're the victim, we forget that we're human beings and we are capable of hurting as
Other
well.
people,
We're
yeah.
capable of hurting other people. And so would I want that person to forgive me? And how do I want them to forgive me? Have I laid everything out on the line so they can forgive me? And now have I deemed myself trustworthy to
be
continue
forgiven.
to be forgiven?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because a lot of times, so here's the thing. When you say you're going to forgive me, then I trust that you're going to do that.
Right.
So I trust that 6 months from now, you're not going to be throwing that back up in my
Right.
face. Although things may trigger those thoughts. So now that forgiveness, I've forgiven that person, him or her. Now it's up to me
to do the work.
It's up to me to
Right.
do the work. So
Right.
when those thoughts come about or things that bring those things to the forefront, I have a choice of suppressing it, or if it's a two-way street. Now, you know what? I know this has happened 6 months ago, but I thought of something. I have one more question regarding that.
Okay.
And so if you are, your relationship, your spouse, whatever, if you're working through a process to get through this together, then I owe it to that person to answer that question.
To answer it, right.
To help
and they don't
them
want to answer
process
it sometimes,
exactly.
especially when you know you're wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we know we're
Answer
wrong, boy. That
question when you know
wall
you're
goes
wrong.
up.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I think too, with forgiveness, it's about a choice. And like you said, if you've told me that you're going to forgive me, I'm going to trust you to do that. I don't think people realize that forgiveness is work that you have to do.
It
it's
is.
not work that the other person has to do, right?
Right.
It's just work that you have to do, because basically, what another my quote, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. So they've shown you what they're capable of.
Yeah.
You then have to decide how you're going to have a relationship with that person. But that's really tricky when you're in a marriage.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Because, we are to death do us part.
Right.
Right. And so that's when we say we're Christians being Christ-like and we want to forgive like Christ. That's when the ultimate test happens.
Right, the
is
humanity of it.
Right, when
Right.
you're married. Because the thing is, we forgive our siblings. All of us that have siblings, we fought with them back and forth. But for what, and then even our best friends that we've had for years, we fight back and forth. But for whatever reason, we don't want to give our spouse that same type of forgiveness. We want it one and done. He did this, she did that, and I'm over. It's a wrap. But we have to have that same type of forgiveness that Christ has for us, because we mess up over and over and over again. I'm not saying don't be a fool, don't be a doormat, but of course I'm saying that we still have to have that Christ-like forgiveness, just like Christ had for us. And to me, the ultimate test is when it comes to our relationship, because guess what? I can't go to mama's house. I still got to lay down in the bed right next to you, right beside you, or at least under the same roof, right there beside you.
It is. It is. So with your role as a fitness trainer and being health conscious, and she makes some really good meal prep meals. I missed the cutoff this week and I screamed at the phone. But how do you filter that into the relationship? Because I know a couple of years ago I made a decision to be more, insistent about my health, to be more aware, intentional. That's the word I'm looking at. Intentional about my health. And it was because of my marriage. My marriage was my motivation, that I didn't want him to have to take care of me because I hadn't take care of me. Now, if I get something and he has to take care of me, okay, fine, I had nothing to do with it. But if it was because I set up and made chicken and waffle cupcakes, I wanted, then I need to, that's something that I didn't want to do. So how do you help couples understand that?
So no one ever gets married, and maybe they do. I can't think of any couples that get married and say, we're going to be married for 10 years and then that's it, right? Most of us get married until death do us part.
That's the intent. Most of us aren't doing that.
Right.
But that is the intent.
But we imagine being able to grow old together and retire, and now we're going to take these lavish vacations and things like that. So ultimately, that's our goal, right? No one intends to, like you stated, to have to take care of their spouse. But in order to do that, you have to take care of yourself. And the wonderful thing about, exercising and working out together, if you can get to that place where you have that common goal with each other.
Oh, you and your husband work out together?
We do. We work out. Actually, I'm his trainer. But working out, that sweating, it actually it produces or releases what we call the feel-good hormone, right?
It does.
So
So
you have that same goal. Ultimately, you're starting to lose weight, you're looking better. So in every human being, that starts to release that hormone that makes you have that better self-esteem. You're feeling more confident about yourself. So imagine if I'm doing this by myself and you're not, then there's a friction there. But when we're doing it together, I mean, this is probably a whole nother quadrant, but the intimacy of that.
Relationships go, intimacy goes on the relationship.
So it's just all of that working hand in hand. When you're, you talked about crying and the release of the tears. It's the same way with the sweat. It's the same thing. So something about having your spouse there, your biggest motivator there. So if you were going to do 15 reps, well, you know what, now I want to impress him, so I'm going to do 20. And he's over there doing the same thing. Now I'm going to do 25. So we're impressing each other. I'm looking at him, he's looking at me. I mean, we can go on and
Goals are important.
Goals are important in every aspect of the relationship, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. That is, because we have worked out together. And because Trent is very fitness aware. Y'all know that Trent is very health conscious and things like that. And he's been very patient with me over the years. Yeah. Yes. Goals are important. That's all I can say.
It keeps us accountable because I'm the cupcake girl. I'm the one that likes the sweet. And he'll say, no, we just came back from the gym. Like, oh, yeah.
And I'm it's good.
But I'm about to eat this pancake.
The thing, this is a transparent moment, right? Alexander has always been fit. I mean, that's just been his physique, everything else. And I mean, that's just it. So my thing I have to get past, and I have at this point, is the resentment of the fact that your metabolism, everything works for you. Yeah. Exactly. Where I had that, and then over the years, it's matured, and then a couple of health issues, and that changed some things. So not that I'm resentful of the quality of fitness that he has, but I know that I did struggle with that at one point, and I don't think enough people will express that. Do you see what I'm saying? Right. Especially when men, period, and I now know the secret ingredient is testosterone. Why they lose weight quickly they can just stop eating that one Snicker a day and they'll lose a pound a week. Yeah.
Exactly.
Whereas I have to stop eating Snickers for 2,700 days.
And
You
drink
know,
a
to
gallon
see
of
that one,
water.
right, drink a gallon of water a day, stop eating the Snickers, don't, you know,
Yeah.
and it's just like, I can only eat so much broccoli. Let me put that down. I'm sorry, go from the- But you see what I'm saying? Because he has, you know, the men, not just him, but he has quicker results than women do.
Yeah, that's
and
our
so
makeup.
how do you help couples deal with that? Because I don't think people talk about that when you lay down at night, I'm ticked at you. You see what I'm saying? Or if you, one time he got on the scale, I was like, get off the scale. And he's like, why? I want to see how much I weigh. Who cares how much you weigh? You know, it was just, and it was that quick, you know, and I wasn't angry when I woke up, but just seeing him get on the scale, when I just got off the scale and the scale hadn't moved in 20 days. Yeah. And it's like, get off the scale. You know, how do you help couples deal with that? Yeah.
That is an excellent question. And I'll be transparent because we have the same thing. I'm a runner, but my favorite form of cardio is running. And with my husband's profession, he has to run so many miles in a minute. Now, he'll wait till maybe 2 or 3 days. And I'm like, oh, you run? He's like, oh, yeah, I got to do my assessment test. And go out there and kill it. I'd go to do a 5K and got to work out 6 months and have a good time.
I have to train,
because your makeup is different.
Right.
But that's where that spouse come in with that encouraging word. That's where I see you, girl. You know, you looking good. You're doing it. That's where you know that scale ain't moved, but something about him telling you that you looking good or things like that. And then it goes both ways.
Right.
So you have to be. If you're going to motivate each other, I always say you are my biggest motivator. You are my biggest fan because you see me at my best and you see me at my worst. Right. So even in my bad times, I need you to be real with me. Even in my good times, I need you to be real with me.
Gotcha.
You know, and know. And so when you have those relationships where you're communicating on a regular basis, and that's one of the things that I talk about on my platform is communication.
Okay.
It actually started my platform. As I digress, I go back. My husband and I, when we were on our honeymoon, we ran into this couple that had been married 50 years. We actually took a dinner cruise, and ironically, they set us at a table with a couple that they were celebrating their 50-year anniversary.
Wow.
So of course, we asked that question: what is the key to keeping you guys together? And they said communication.
Okay.
And so we're like, oh yeah, everybody says that, right? It's so cliche. But now that we've come to know that it's so key because you are communicating at every level. And every aspect of your life. And it's how you communicate, how you say it, and how I respond to it.
Right, how I
so
receive
asking
it.
those,
Yeah.
and even asking those candid questions. Okay, well, what are your goals? What are your aspects? Okay, as I stated, when I was 15, or maybe when we got married at 21, those goals were different. But now that I'm 30 and my vision is a little bit clear,
My perspective.
exactly. Now, what are your goals? And it's the same with fitness. It's the same with health. Are you working out? Are you getting up and going to the gym every morning at 5 because you want to develop muscle and the scale's not moving?
Yeah.
Or are you getting up and working out for that heart?
Right.
You know,
Right.
for the the
That's what I've
diabetes,
said.
the blood pressure, and things like that. So there is a difference in your goal. Heart disease and things like that run rapid in my family. So I lost my grandmother to that. My mom has some heart problems. So I do it for the heart.
Right.
You know, where somebody else may be doing it for the guns or the leanness of it. But again, it's about communicating that with your spouse too. Knowing what your ultimate goals are, why you're there. So now I'm not pushing you to lift and bench press 300 pounds. I'm pushing you to get that cardio in because I know you're doing it for the heart. Exactly.
That's good.
Exactly.
Okay. All righty. Do you all have any questions? Try coming to the mic. Okay.
Very good.
Thank you.
It's coming.
Okay, so do you, as you're a couple, and I'm single, and grandmother, 57, doing my thing. However, do you have advice to people who are single as far as wanting to move into that area of being married? What would your advice as a marriage kind of counseling thing that you?
Walk like a wife. So you have to be intentional about whatever your wants are. If that's what your desire to be is to be a wife, then live your lifestyle wife-like, if you will. That's usually my goal. And sometimes we get we're not approachable because, and I'm not saying that this is stupid, sometimes people are not approachable because they put on this air or this persona as I got it going on, I got this and I got that. And we don't give off that vibe that, not that we need anybody, but we desire to have somebody. Exactly. And so we have to be really careful with, it's great to be an entrepreneur, great to be, at the top of your career or top of your game, but at the same time, showing yourself sociable or, having that, I guess that not open door, but you know what I mean, opening yourself up. Yeah, exactly, openness to where you're like, I'm approachable, So that would be my suggestion, is make sure that you are approachable.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Would you not agree that when you are in your relationship and you're married, be it newlywed or to have what you and your husband have, that it is just as important to compliment your husband as he compliments you?
Absolutely. Is that a word?
It is today.
Absolutely. Look, here's my thing. Because we work outside the home, right? I be devil doggone, that's what my pastor says, if I'm going to let somebody at his job, the receptionist, say, you smell good, or you feel, because he going to know that because I've already told him that. You know what I'm saying? So yes, absolutely. And sometimes we think it's, we take it for granted that our spouse know how we feel about them. And we want to hear it all the time. We don't want to hear it just from somebody else. We want to hear it from our spouse. So, ladies, I would encourage you, well, he know I love him, or he know I think he looks good, or he knows I appreciate when he takes out the trash or wash my car, things like that. No, he needs to hear it, especially men. Men need to hear it more so, than women. We keep going and going and going and going. And sometimes, we know it, but eventually we're going to take that wall. Like, you don't appreciate me because you need to hear it. Yeah.
So the reason I asked that question is because I'm 8 years senior to my husband, and every single morning, even when I'm mad at him, I send him a love message, and I also send him a scripture. But one of the things I notice about him is that he's never had that in his life, so I don't get responses. So it doesn't really affect me too much because he shows our love language is completely different. He shows his love in a different way. But how can I get him to just acknowledge the fact that it made him feel good today to get that? Because one of the things he brings to my attention is, you didn't send me a message today because I might be stuck in a meeting. So he's like, well, what were you doing? You didn't send me a message today. So I know that portion of it works, but what can I do? Because sometimes, ladies, I do get a little angry with him, and I might go, I'm gonna wait till 3 o'clock to send this message instead of 7:30 to send this message.
So sometimes you're doing it for yourself also. If it makes you feel good to do it, don't stop doing it because of their response, because you already know that he's watching for it. Secondly, I would ask you, have you told them? Yes, okay, so just make sure you tell them, but keep doing it because God placed that in your heart for a reason to do, right? So sometimes it's not about his response, it's about your connection with God. So you're doing it because he told you to do, not because he told you to do it.
Right. Okay, one more question.
Hi, I'd like to ask a question, something simple. It's 6 years now and I had a baby, and it's like my weight hasn't gone nowhere.
Your weight?
Yeah, I'm still maintaining a maternity weight.
Are you still doing the same lifestyle or eating the same, doing the same exercise
I
that
don't
you
eat
were doing?
I don't eat a
that's a
lot.
problem.
Well, there you go, right
That's
there.
a
You just
problem.
answered your own question right there.
I was before I had her, I was super skinny, a size 0. But ever since I had this kid, my weight hasn't gone nowhere. It's just the same maternity weight.
You have produced a life out of your body, so you cannot continue that. Your body structure has totally changed now. So it is not the same old body that you had before that baby. So you're going to have to do some things differently, and you're not eating much. So that's key number one. It tells me you need to be eating at least 5 times a day. And question would ask, how do I eat more and lose weight? Because now your metabolism has changed drastically, okay? So you're going to have to feed that metabolism in order for it to burn that baby fat that you're hanging on to.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. We can talk more about it.
It's kindergarten fat now.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, Beverly, thank you. Look, I got so caught up in the interview, I wasn't even paying attention. welcome.